institution known as Societe Generale, that is now being taken over by BGFI Bank. And we move on to land litigation. This time around, the family in Agongo, to claim lands, get to read more on that publication from the central region of the country. And for my time for this morning report on the protection of business, it says the Minister of Trade, Luke Magabaranga, recommends on the sensitization and formation on businesses, and I'll get to read more on that said story from the Minister of Trade, Luke Magabaranga Tangana. Daily Independent, all the way from Nigeria, reports on labor cuts, power, shortcuts, airports, ministries, schools. Get to read more on the nationwide strike action that took place in Nigeria yesterday, and the strike action is quite indefinite until compromises are made. Stakeholders worry over timing Heritage Bank license reconvocation. We will abide by federal government's decision on state police, according to the Inspector General of Police in Nigeria. The National Labour Congress of Nigeria accuses federal government of intimidation over national grid shutdown. And business day for this morning talks of labor grounds, gates, ports, banks in blow to economy. Hajj subsidy luxury SUVs poison negotiations. Peter Sites get to read more on that publication for today. And indirect taxes doubles to 1.4 trillion naira in boost to government revenue. And we move on to the next Nigerian tabloid this time around. This day for this morning report on NEMA MD appeal for reversal of 50% IGR reduction in interest of air safety. After Trump's conviction, Biden's son trial in federal gun courts begins. Get to read more on that said paper. Dangote eyes 30 billion US dollars in total revenue from his businesses by the end of 2024. We take you to this other newspaper from Nigeria. Daily News Hub for this morning says strike labor grounds Nigeria, federal government blows hot coal. Get to read more on that said paper for today. Strike will aggravate hardship by 494,000 naira minimum wage package unrealistic, according to Labour Party. Acceding to Labour's demand cripple Nigeria's economy presidency. And the paper reports on the first woman who is now the first female president in Mexico. Get to read more on that paper of Daily News Hub. And we move on to first news for this morning. A report on minimum wage. It says nationwide strike cripples key services of Nigeria as the airport, television, radio station, banks, and other down since yesterday, as the strike action still continues today. And this will have a negative impact on the Nigerian economy, as reported by First News for this morning. And 494,000 minimum wage package, that is the amount the Nigerian Labour Congress is demanding from the federal government of Tinubu. It says it's quite unrealistic, according to what the Labour Party says, urges federal government to return to negotiation table with the leaders of the various workers syndicate union of Nigeria. The metrics for this morning, new minimum wage package truce at last, gets the metrics for this day. And confusion over fate of Pastor Yokudmele. Source say he was transferred, not suspended. The Daily Times for this morning talks of FH's compromise with organized labor amidst nationwide strike. Get to read details on that story. Tinubu to Nigerians, put nation first, rise above politics, greater success, calls unity of purpose to enhance Nigeria's infrastructural development. That is what Tinubu is saying. And the Punch for this morning, minimum wage, federal government offers 60,000 naira, labor may end strike. That is what you can find on the Punch for today. And 10C is not selling crude to our refinery, says Dangote. I'm working to improve quality of life. That is what Tinubu says on page 12 on the Punch for today. And Heritage Bank NDIC begins refund highest depositors get 5 million naira. Foreign reserve fall by 1.8 billion US dollars in 10 weeks. And water from Benin, it says border agency rescues Ogun communities after Punch reports. You can find details on page 16 on the Punch newspaper for this morning. Vanguard for today reports on labor shorts Nigeria as wage talks resume today. And Nama managing director wants to reversal of 50% of the IJR reduction in interest of safety. Presidential committee canvasses 1% revenue poverty according to Ajaero. Get with details on that publication for today. A New Telegraph for this morning. Nigeria in darkness, airport orders shut down as labor cripples economy activity. Get to read more on that said paper. CBN revokes Heritage Bank's license, and the Guardian report on businesses grown as labor grounds on Nigeria, as labor's grounds economic activities all across Nigeria. Strike passage shuts down as National Assembly cuts electricity supply. And we move on to the Nigerian Labour Congress. NLC tackles federal government National Assembly for prioritizing national anthem bill over workers' welfare. We move away from the Nigerian tabloids. We come back to Cameroon with the this time with the Guardian Post for this morning. It says FIFA Food Sports Ministry saga deepens further, and PCRN founding father defies court orders as he holds Congress. We move on to the next publication for this day. That is the Post of late Francis Wache reports on the deposit and consignment fund may impact on forceful recovery of unclaimed funds after deadline. You want to find details on the Post newspaper for this day. Yaoundé 2 Swire University crown champions of the 2024 varsity games that just ended in the town of Garoua. We move on to Abdul Karim rejects trial in Cameroonian courts, demand release of Anglophone detainees, and armed men brutally killed divisional delegates in Donga Mantong division of the Northwest region. Away from that, we crossed over to Cameroon Tribune, the paper from Marie Claire Nana for today reports on Cameroon-South Korea cooperation ties. The paper talks of exemption of visa to both countries as Cameroonians can now travel to Korea visa-free in as much as South Koreans can travel to Cameroon visa-free. And intellectual property, the paper reports on development aspect on the score. You want to find more on that said paper on Cameroon Tribune newspaper on page 2 to page 3. We move on to page 12 to 13 on Cameroon Tribune on the Hajj 2024 departure to the holy city of Medina in Saudi Arabia on course by the Cameroonian pilgrims. We take you to the encounter between Cameroon and Cape Verde that will be played this Saturday at the Yaoundé Amato Ahijo Stadium. The paper reports on how the Indomitable Lions are training on the build-up to the 2026 World Cup qualification tickets built for the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Away from Cameroon Tribune newspaper for this morning, we crossed over to the next publication for today. That is La Nouvelle. La Nouvelle reports on the clash between Fecafoot and Cameroon Football Federation, that is Cameroon Football Federation and the Ministry of Sport and Physical Education, MINSEF, he says, on the high instruction of the head of state, quite respected by both entities. And we take you to this other story, 20th May celebration, the truth of the architecture of national unity in Cameroon, and the deposit and consignment fund. He says SIDEC finally goes operational, according to the paper of La Nouvelle for this morning. From La Nouvelle, we crossed over to the tourism sector with Le Quotidien Economy. For this day, Le Quotidien Economy reports on the tourism sector. It says the bat sector in Cameroon, despite the enormous touristic potentials that the country possesses, but this sector is poorly managed, according to that publication of Quotidien Economy for today. The bank banking sector, the paper reports on the transformation of digitalization and dynamism in Africa since 2023 when it comes to the banking sector in the continent. L'Activité newspaper for today, distinction, the paper report on the medal awards that went to Rudemaf. Get read details on that publication for today. And we take you to this botanic garden in the botanic gardens in the country that will now have a special touch. You want to find details on that paper for today. Khmer Press for this morning reports on the BGFI Bank on the BGFI Bank on the track race of Societe Generale who left the nation Cameroon, according to Khmer Press for today. Quotidian Emergence for today reports on the management of the Indomitable Lions. It says the big debacle. You want to find more on that publication of Quotidian Emergence for this day. Garua, the paper reports on the Alliance Française who engage to accompany local artists. Chris in Africa, Shada, with headquarters in Boya, denounces the attack or condemns the attack of GCE and baccalaureate students that were attacked by Anglophone separatists in the town of Bamenda. Whether the paper reports on risky floods that have been announced by the National Observatory Board for Climate Change from the month of June 2024. Southwest Development Authority, SOWEDA, stakeholders applaud, give thumbs up to management for their effective execution of management of managerial funds that were accorded to management last year. You want to find details on that publication of Tabetayang Enobika. Journalists, bloggers upgrade skills on safety protection. And in that said paper, MCN feds 30 years with flashback at Yellow Care Project. Champ Victor wins big away from Bamenda. It talks of the OACP's mining ministers approve action plan fostering realistic valuable mineral transformation, according to the Gazette, all the way from Bamenda. Anglophone escalating crisis. The paper report on deception behind 30 billion francs earmark to beef up development in Bamenda. And Ako Council Mayor provides set for this day. From the Gazette, we move on to the next paper on our disposal for this morning. Today talks of the qualification ticket to the World Cup 2026 in Canada, Mexico, and the United States of Cameroon. Fecafoot retires, gets